You cannot suffer from the past or future because they do not exist. What you're suffering is your memory and your imagination. Hey, thanks for tuning in. The Power of Now Summary Part 2 is finally here. Sorry for the delay, I just haven't been able to upload as much as I want to, but I do plan on uploading more often. So again, thanks for the continued support. I really appreciate it. And with that out of the way, let's go. Super quick recap on Part 1. If you haven't watched that yet, please watch it first. I'll link to it below. Now, you can free yourself from the enslavement of your mind, that incessant stream of thoughts that never stops, and live free of suffering, anxiety, and neurosis. You can live in peace. This can be done by disidentifying from your mind, living in the here and now, and accepting what is. Lesson 1 was, you are not your mind, you're not your thoughts. You're more like the witnessing presence or observer of your mind. Lesson 2, the present is all we will ever have. So live in the here and now, rather than stuck in your head all day thinking of the past and future. Focus on the present moment. When you focus on the now, the mind and your thoughts fade away a little. And lesson 3 was acceptance of what is, which means to surrender to the now. Remove or limit your judgments and complaints. Stop judging yourself, your own thoughts, and others. When you give no resistance to what is, to what's happening, when you yield to the flow of life and not oppose it, you become free. And there were a lot of great comments from the first video, so thank you for that. I want to share a couple. Now, I usually don't do this, but some of these are so good that I just had to share them. And I want to expose you to what others are saying because I think it'll help some of you to get a better grasp on Eckhart's teachings. Okai said, "How strange it is to realize I've lived 25 years not knowing I am merely the observer of these abyss-like thoughts and emotions. I was around 25 to 30 when I finally got a glimpse of this understanding. I realized, wait, so I'm not just my thoughts? What am I then?" Cue that existential crisis. Martin stated in his comment, "It is not what you do in life, but the state of consciousness from which your actions are performed that matters. Every single word of this book is true. The higher consciousness behind the mind knows that it is true as you read. This book made me realize that I was literally sleepwalking in life. 100% identified with my mind, thoughts, and ego, but I simply had no idea this is what was happening." And that's true for most of us. We're pretty much on autopilot. Martin goes on to say, "I had a spiritual awakening and the walls of my ego came crumbling down. I cannot recommend this book strongly enough to every single human person out there who exists. In the timeless dimension of the now, there is no problem." Very true, Martin. And I'll paraphrase Salim's very nice comment. A person is not their mind, but the observer, the witness, the untethered consciousness. When you're willing to give the witnessing consciousness more airtime, unconsciousness begins to dissipate, inner spaciousness expands, and intuition shows up. As mind chatter drops, distressing thoughts about the past and the future lose their grip. A person settles into the peace of being themselves without resistance to what is happening now. Beautifully said. And lastly, Bonpu4 said, "There is one point I find important that many people seem to miss. True acceptance begins only when there is no longer a notion of somebody accepting. Acceptance is not a doing, but a being, thus not subject to concepts of time, will, trying conditions, degrees, goals. Even the popular idea that everything is already accepted, hence nothing to do, avoids the central point, that you are the timeless presence called acceptance, while that voice in your head is trying to convince you otherwise." Very true and all great comments. Now, there are a couple more topics from the book that I want to hit on. The ego, emotions, and the inner body. Let's dive in. Let's talk a little bit more about the ego. Since we become so identified with our mind, we derive our sense of self from it. As you grow up, you form a mental image of who you are based on your personal and cultural conditioning. We may call this phantom self the ego. It consists of mind activity and can only be kept going through constant thinking. The ego is only concerned about the past and the future, as stated in the first video. It wants to keep the past alive because without the past, who are you? It tells a story of you and projects that past self onto the present moment. It looks to the past and projects itself into the future. It is not concerned with the present moment. It looks at the present moment as a means to an end. It says things like, "One day when I get this or when I get that, I'll be happy. This is a fallacy. The ego tries to keep itself alive and always seeks fulfillment in the future. The present moment holds the key to liberation, but you cannot find the present moment as long as you are the mind. Ego identification comes from our possessions, social status, our work, physical appearance, knowledge, education, relationships, history, beliefs, and many other things. But none of these are you. Does that scare you? I personally find it to be a huge relief. All of these things will disappear sooner or later, so you have to be ready to let them go at any time. And Eckhart Tolle has a great quote: "Ego is the unobserved mind that runs your life when you are not present as the witnessing consciousness, the watcher." The ego perceives itself as a separate fragment in a hostile universe, with no real interconnection to any other being, surrounded by other egos which it either sees as a potential threat or which it will attempt to use for its own ends. The basic ego patterns are designed to combat its own deep-seated fear and sense of lack. They are resistance, control, power, greed, defense, and attack. Some of the ego's strategies are extremely clever, yet they never truly solve any of its problems, simply because the ego itself is the problem. Okay, second lesson, I want to talk about emotions. Emotions are the body's reaction to your mind. Eckhart states that emotions arise at the place where mind and body meet. Emotions are a reflection of your mind in the body. The more identified you are with your thinking, the stronger your emotional energy charge will be. On the other hand, if you're cut off from your emotions, they'll eventually surface as physical symptoms. If you're simply unconscious of built-up emotional patterns like anger or resentment, it may express itself in some external event. So it's important that we're in touch with our emotions. If you have trouble in this area, focus your attention on the inner energy field within your body. We'll talk about the inner body in the next section. Just as you watch thoughts, you can watch emotions too. This can be challenging because it's very easy to get caught up in our emotions in the heat of the moment. Try and take a step back, watch your thoughts and emotions unfold. To get started, ask yourself, what's going on inside me at this moment? Focus your attention within. By doing this, you're bringing the light of consciousness into your body. You're breaking the cycle of unconscious reaction. An emotion usually represents an amplified and energized thought pattern, and because of its often overpowering energetic charge, it's not easy to initially stay present enough to watch. It wants to take you over, and it usually succeeds, unless there's enough presence in you. If you're pulled into unconscious identification with the emotion through lack of presence, which is normal, the emotion temporarily becomes you. So how do you move past that? Acceptance of the emotion combined with your presence is key. When you resist what is, you create pain for yourself. And resistance can come in many forms. For example, complaining. Now see if you can catch yourself complaining, either through speech or thought, throughout the day. When you're complaining, you're not accepting what is. You make yourself into a victim. You have to make a choice. You either remove yourself from the situation, change it, or accept it completely. No excuses and no negativity. If action is required, drop the negativity and take action. When you accept your resentment, moodiness, anger, and so on, you're no longer forced to act them out blindly, and you are less likely to project them onto others. If you get the inside right, the outside will fall into place. Primary reality is within, secondary reality without. Don't think about your emotions. Observe the emotion. Feel it fully. Acknowledge and accept that it is there. The emotion, or whatever it is, should be felt, and then you move past it. You don't need to dwell on it. You don't need to bottle it up. Feel it, and then move past it. Emotions are like momentary ripples on the ocean. Your being is the ocean. You are the ocean, and of course, you are also that ripple. But a ripple that has realized its true identity as the ocean, and compared to the vastness and depth, the world of waves and ripples is not all that important. Forgiveness is to offer no resistance to life, to allow life to live through you. The alternatives are pain and suffering, a greatly restricted flow of life energy, and in many cases, physical disease. And the last lesson I want to hit on is the inner body. Underneath your outer form, you're connected with something so vast, so immeasurable and sacred that it cannot be conceived or spoken of. That's the limitation of our language. We're not able to explain these deep concepts easily. Our bodies wither and fade away. This ephemeral form is not you. Your body is more like an outer shell, or as Tolle says, it's a distorted perception of a deeper reality. but your body can be used as a point of access into the realm of being. So take time to feel your invisible inner body. Feel the body from within. Take the focus of your attention away from thinking and direct it into the body. If you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about when I say inner body, do this now. Close your eyes and focus your attention on your hands. Can you feel the inner energy of your hands? Try to feel it for other parts of the body like your feet, legs, arms, and so on. Can you feel that subtle energy that resides there? It kind of feels alive, right? Like it's like a vibration. Explore that. Feel it deeply. Transformation is through the body, not away from it. Do not deny your body. The inner body is timeless. The physical body withers and dies. You will feel the same energy within you whether you're 20 or 80 years old. Try and feel your inner body throughout the day. Try and keep that connection open during your daily activities. When you keep your attention in your body, you'll be anchored in the now. It's easy to stay present as the observer of your mind when you're deeply rooted within your body. No matter what happens on the outside, nothing can shake you anymore. When challenges come, focus as much as you can on the inner energy field of your body. You need to do it the moment that the challenge presents itself. Any delay will allow a conditioned mental emotion reaction to arise and take you over. When you focus within and feel the inner body, you immediately become still and present as you are withdrawing from the mind. If a response is required in this situation, it will come up from this deeper level. There is infinitely more intelligence in being than in your mind. Change your state from being out of the body and trapped in the mind to being in the body and present in the now. As you go about your life, don't give 100% of your attention to the external world and your mind. Keep some within. And I do have a couple last bonus lessons I want to hit on. We are all one. Now, we feel a deep sense of fear and incompleteness because we've forgotten that we are a part of the whole. Your mind tries to cover it up in various ways, but the mind can never become the solution because it is part of the problem. You'll never be free until you stop deriving your sense of self from your mind and ego. You and other is a complete illusion. The screen of thought labels, judges, defines, conceptualizes, and creates a state of apparent separateness. Underneath the level of physical appearances and separate forms, you are one with all that is. Even if you believe this statement to be true, you need to go beyond that and actually feel it to be true as well. That's what this book masterfully guides us into doing. Silence and space. Pay attention to silence and space. It's something that we don't really do. We're always looking at things and listening to noises. But if you direct your attention to silence and space, you'll see something. Silence is an even more potent carrier of presence. Listening to silence immediately creates stillness inside of you. The same is true for space. Empty space enables everything else to be. Even deeper, the solidity of matter is an illusion. Even the body, which seems solid, is nearly 100% empty space. So become aware of the space that is around you. By becoming aware of the empty space around you, you simultaneously become aware of the space of no mind, of pure consciousness, the unmanifested. If you remain in conscious connection with the unmanifested, you value, love, and deeply respect the manifested and every life form in it as an expression of the one life beyond form. You also know that every form is destined to dissolve again and that ultimately nothing out here matters all that much. You have overcome the world. In the words of Jesus, or as the Buddha put it, you have crossed over to the other shore. Enlightened relationships. The moment that judgment stops through acceptance of what is, you are free of the mind. You have made room for love, for joy, for peace. To have an enlightened relationship, first, you need to stop judging yourself. And second, you need to stop judging your partner. Completely accept your partner as he or she is. Now, I understand this is very difficult for a lot of us to do, but that's where the focus needs to be. Every time there's a crisis, if the relationship isn't working, use it as an opportunity. Accept it, acknowledge it, and don't try to escape it. If you're angry, know that there is anger. When you create this knowing, you're bringing your unconscious behavior into the light. It cannot last long in the light. If you observe unconscious behavior in your partner, hold it in the loving embrace of your knowing so that you won't react. If you react at all to your partner's unconsciousness, you become unconscious yourself. But if you then remember to know your reaction, nothing is lost. Never mind if your partner will not cooperate. Consciousness can only come into this world through you. When your partner behaves unconsciously, relinquish all judgment. Be the knowing rather than being the reaction and the judge. This allows for a clear space for the other person to be as they are. You cannot transform someone else. All you can do is create a space for that transformation to happen. Listen to your partner in an open and non-defensive way. Be present and give them the space to express themselves. When you give space for the emotions to be, when you offer non-judgment and no resistance, you're allowing the pain and transmuting it at the same time. The knowing creates this. Don't fight your emotions, just become aware of them. Let them be. Don't judge them. And through that, you create a space of knowing. Instead of letting the emotions become you, you become the watcher and the knower. Any emotion that you take your presence into will quickly subside and become transmuted. If you get into an argument with your partner, observe how you become defensive as your own position is attacked. See how you cling to your viewpoints and your opinions. Do this enough, and eventually you realize you have a choice. You can choose to drop your own reaction. You can let go of that whole mental, emotional drama that fights for power. When you can detach identification from the mind, true communication can occur. And that wraps it up. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.